Treehouse of Horror 3 is the second episode of the 24th season of The Simpsons, and I have to say this one's actually not too bad. Some of the Treehouse of Horrors of recent seasons have been hit or miss, but this one, I enjoyed all three stories. As always, I will go through the segments, share some thoughts, so there will be some spoilers in this for things that happen. So I'll just say spoilers from now to be on the safe side. Honestly, I didn't love the beginning. In fact, I really didn't care for the opening sequence, and I found it went on for quite a long time. The characters are Mayan version of themselves, and I have to say the architecture was really nice from an animation perspective. Visually, it was quite interesting, but the story itself, I just didn't really care for it. It didn't speak to me. I didn't like it. Had it been shorter, I might not have minded it as much, but it really felt much longer than the average opening. I could be wrong, it could just be it felt that way, but certainly I didn't love it. But the three main segments I thought were pretty good. So the first one is The Greatest Story Ever Told, which is about a black hole. And I love how this was animated because the air around the black hole is constantly sucking inwards. So the animation around it constantly looks like it's trying to be pulled inwards, and it's so effectively done and so well. And as the hole gets bigger, that gets kind of amplified, and I found it to be really fascinating and really good fun. Homer's fingers were disgusting, wonderful, but disgusting. And my favourite quote in the entire thing, when Marge said, "I'm putting a baby gate across the black hole." Just some things you never think would be said. I do feel like it ended very abruptly. I feel like this segment, I felt like something was missing. Like they'd chopped off a minute or so of the ending because it just was so abrupt. However, the next one I liked a lot more than I thought. And this one's Unnormal Activity. Now, I don't really like Paranormal Activity. I find it to be quite boring. But it actually, after watching this, it's made me want to go back and watch Paranormal Activity to see maybe if my opinions changed. So that's got to be a good thing. And basically the entire thing, or most of it, is told, in fact it might be the entire thing, as if we're looking through a video camera. And we have various paranormal happenings. I didn't really care for how it ended. The description of what was doing the haunting and how that came about, I found to be kind of boring and almost, well, I've said spoilers, so I can talk about this with spoilers, but it felt very similar to something that Marge had done many Treehouse of Horrors ago with Maggie. In fact, it might have been the very first Treehouse of Horror, the one with Kang and Kodos. I think that was their introduction. You'll know which one I mean if you've seen it. So it felt kind of similar. It's not really the same, but just the whole setup had a very similar vibe. But even though I didn't love the way it ended, I thought it was still a pretty good segment. And the third one I thought was fabulous. Bart and Homer's Excellent Adventure, which is actually a parody of Back to the Future. Interesting, I love Back to the Future, so I was really keen to see what they would do with this, and it worked really well. Bart goes back in time to buy a comic book for its original cover price and ends up bumping into Homer and potentially ruins his own existence. And then we go back to the future and see what has happened as a result of this. And I liked it. I thought it was creative. It was very well done. The pacing was great. It kind of made me wish it was a full episode. And it could work as a full episode if they, had the same kind of setup with Professor Frink creating some kind of machine that goes back in time, and then at the end of the episode the machine's destroyed and never to be talked of again. I think it could have worked really well as a full episode, but even just getting it as a segment in this Treehouse of Horror, I really enjoyed it. I thought it worked really well. It's definitely one that I would absolutely watch again. So as a whole package, Treehouse of Horror 23, aside from really starting to test my Roman numerals, is a delight. The start, the opening, I didn't like. And I kind of thought, oh, is this going to set us up for the tone for the rest of it? But no, it didn't. It took a really positive direction after that, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. If I had to rank them, which I usually do with Treehouse of Horrors, I'd say my favourite was Bart and Homer's Excellent Adventure. And then I don't know. I really enjoyed The Greatest Story Ever Told and Unnormal Activity. Okay, I think The Greatest Story Ever Told would be second. and then Unnormal Activity, but only just. If you've seen this episode, if you're a fan of this episode, I'd love to know how you rank the segments. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Either way, I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next one. It's restored my faith that we can actually have a Treehouse of Horror where all 3 segments are actually pretty good.